Sheku's family, on the eve of the 3rd anniversary of his death in police custody, have taken the unprecedented step of launching a civil action against the police. The action will raise serious questions about the accountability of police officers and the training of officers in restraint techniques. How many more people must die before decisive action is taken against those responsible? 3 years on, the family is still waiting for the Lord Advocate to decide whether he will prosecute the police officers. It is of note that there has never been a successful prosecution of a police officer for death in custody in the United Kingdom. This points to the lack of accountability and impunity with which law enforcement and state agencies operate. Today, Deborah Coles, the Director of Inquest, who has worked closely with the legal campaign, will raise the case with the United Nations Special Rapporteur on Racism on the issue of unacceptable delays in uncovering the truth and establishing accountability in the case of Sheku Bayo. I noticed that we have a lot of you already read that. I will have a copy of this for you, and I'll email out to you as well, just in case you're short. In terms of the background, Sheku Bayo died at the age of 31 on the streets of Kirkcaldy on May 3rd, 3 years ago on a Sunday morning. Police claim to have received calls from members of the public of a black man with a knife acting erratically. 6 police vehicles were dispatched. 2 officers were the first to arrive on the scene, followed by 2 more, and a total of 9 officers arrived within the space of 1 minute. Sheku was not carrying a knife when the police arrived, nor did he brandish a knife, nor did he ever stab a police officer, as was claimed in the initial police reports and radio reports, nor was one ever found on him. But Sheku was face down on the ground within 30 seconds of the police arriving and lost consciousness within a few minutes. He had been handcuffed and restraints were applied to his legs and ankles. Overwhelmed and with nowhere to go, he struggled for his last breath. It was Sheku's body that was covered in injuries from top to bottom, over 54 separate injuries, lacerations, cuts and bruises. Following Sheku's death, his family were lied to by the police and given 5 separate versions of events, with the first lie being told to Colette that a member of the public had found him lying dead on the street and had called an ambulance. Sheku's family have always said that if he broke the law, then arrest him, but any use of force had to be lawful, proportionate, and necessary in the circumstances, but he did not deserve to die. Within an hour of Sheku's death, the 9 uniformed police officers, including the police officer Nicole Short, were able to return to the police station and were put in a room together for several hours. Those police officers then failed to provide statements for some 32 days to their senior officers or to those of the independent investigators of the Kirk. The family have asked the question that if 9 members of the public used weapons and restrained someone who then died on a public street, would those 9 members of the public be given the courtesy of picking a time and choice of when they would give their statements? In the midst of their grief, the Bayo family were forced to set up a campaign simply to get answers. We have always heard of reports in the United States of black men who caused their own death, yet in Scotland, the press were manipulated by police sources to portray a negative image of Sheku of a 6-foot-plus black man, a drug-crazed madman, a knife-wielding attacker who would have murdered had it not been for the police. We now know that some officers claimed that they believed they were under a terrorist attack, and no opportunity was missed to demonize Sheku. The dead cannot answer back, but his family will for him. 3 years on, the real issue for the Bayos is not about the negative pictures, but about a system that allows people's children to die at the hands of the police and then not hold them to account for these deaths. In relation to the civil action, last Friday, a summons was served on the present Chief Constable for the actions of officers 3 years ago under the leadership of the then Chief Constable Stephen House. The action for damages in the Court of Session is for £1,850,000 in the name of Sheku's 3 sisters, his mother Aminata and his partner Colette Bell, her son Isaac Bayo, aged 3, and Sheku's other son Tyler Barke, aged 6. We understand that the case must call by the 18th of May at the Court of Session. It is alleged, 1, that the manner of restraint used by the officers was not reasonable, was not proportionate or necessary, and resulted in Sheku suffering from positional asphyxiation. 2, there was an obvious risk of death, and the restraint measures deployed by officers were dangerous and did not comply with standard operating procedures. 3. Police Scotland has failed to provide the appropriate training on restraint to its officers. 5. That the police officers caused or materially contributed to the death of Sheikh Bayo. And 5. That the Police Scotland officers failed in their duty of reasonable care to protect the life of Sheikh Bayo, and his death could have been avoided. On the question of criminal prosecutions, it is imperative now that the Lord Advocate takes decisive action and tells the family as well as the officers what he intends to do, and would respect the family's faith he has had long enough. The final issue that the family wishes me to raise is the question of the Police Independent Review Commission of the PERC. From the very beginning, the family believed that the PERC investigation was fundamentally flawed, lacked impartiality or robustness. Over the last 3 years, it has become increasingly clear that whether you are a civilian fighting for justice or a police officer falsely accused, the PERC is simply not up to the job. PERC stands accused of failing to adhere to its values of integrity, impartiality and respect, and acting as a law unto itself. The concern for Scotland is that PERC was supposed to be an independent investigating body with the equivalent powers of the police on a par with the English IPCC, able to arrest, detain, question and demand evidence, yet PERC appeared impotent when it came to the most serious incident, the death and custody of Sheikh Bayo. Imagine if a surgeon or a social worker, after a death in their care, refused to tell management what happened. There would be an outcry. Why should police officers be treated any differently? Why should the guardians of law and order be allowed to pick a time and place to speak that suits them all, if at all? The Lord Advocate, Police Scotland, as well as the Scottish Government, must take on action on this loophole that creates immunity for police officers before somebody else dies. For the family, in 3 years, PERC has shown its investigations and decisions to be flawed. There have been problems too with the PERC's own investigators, many of whom are former police officers. The family believe that PERC has failed to secure an independent and robust investigation and thus failed to secure critical evidence, accepting police evidence without challenge and misunderstanding the law. The family found that the Commissioner and her senior investigators lacked empathy or an ability to engage. Fundamentally, they believe that the PERC investigation was an exercise in mitigation rather than investigation. The Commission has failed to demonstrate that it was genuinely independent or has the capability and the resources to do the job. It is unacceptable that the PERC, after a death in custody, were left waiting for 32 days before nine of the death in custody officers would give statements. Over the course of their investigation, the family believe the PERC have shown insufficient attention to detail and a failure to gather and to collate all the evidence or to pursue all reasonable lines of inquiry. In conclusion, to the PERC, the family has 2 demands. 1, that the PERC has failed the Bayo family, police officers, Police Scotland, and they have delayed an inquiry and an outcome, and on that basis they believe that Craig Frame, the Police Independent Review Commissioner, should now resign. 2, the family would urge the Scottish Government to order an independent judicial review of the PERC. In conclusion, I would wish to state on behalf of the Sheiku's family that the investigation into the death of Sheikh Bayo was a national disgrace. To date, no officer was suspended without prejudice, and despite the final report delivered by PERC to the Lord Advocate in 2016, he is yet to take action. The passage of time means that memories fade and evidence disappears or deteriorates. Sheiku's loved ones never wanted to go to court, but they will not give up. And whilst the dead cannot cry out for justice, it is the duty of the living to do so for them, and that is exactly what Sheiku's family intend to do. I'd like to ask Ms. Caddy Johnson, who is the sister of Sheikh Bayo, to give her statement.
It has been 3 years now since our beloved brother was brutally taken away from us. We, the family, have kept an open mind and have faith in the justice system. But waiting for 3 years with no answers has been so disturbing. PAC is not fit for purpose. From the start of their so-called investigation, the aim was to justify the actions of the police and to blame my brother Sheku for his own death. The head of PAC failed to approach this investigation openly and clearly. Whilst the Crown Office has kept us informed over the 3 years, very little progress has been made with the death of my brother since the change of the Lord Advocate. We are forced now to raise our own civil action for the failures of the previous Chief Constable, Stephen House, and his officers. How many more investigations do they need to do? How many more of the same people do they need to speak to? The police are the key suspects. Why doesn't the justice system do the right thing as it would if it was just a member of the public? We, the family, want an end to this. We want to breathe. Our patients have been exhausted. Our trust is failed. We have run out of answers to our children about their uncle. These children are getting older and asking about their father. What more can we say to them? We have had enough and our confidence is shattered. Our hope is for fairer Scotland and justice for all, by the young, old, black or white.
Thank you. As Claire Bell, business partner and brother of this organiser.
It will be 3 years tomorrow since Sheck was taken from us in a brutal, violent way. He was mistreated by those who were meant to serve and protect. We have always said that if Sheck broke the law, then the police had the right to act. They did not have the right to perform the role of judge, jury and executioner. They did not have the right to lie to my face in the immediate hours after his death. Police have raised more questions than they have answered about the circumstances of Sheck's death. 2 reports have been handed to the Crown Office since 2015. They have so far acted on Lena. How can anyone be expected to have confidence in the police and our justice system? The Crown may drag their heels and interpret dwindle support, but I am here to tell you that is not going to happen. He will not be forgotten, he will not stop beloved and remembering him, and we will fight to make sure Sheck gets the justice he deserves. I ask you, how long would you fight if your loved one was unlawfully killed? What would you want in place to ensure your loved one has justice and that measures were in place so that nobody else had to ever go through the same? Would you not continue to fight and campaign?